everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Fiddle. I am an artist, a crafter, and a miniaturist that likes to teach others that they can be creative too. Link to Scavenger Hunt, patterns, and materials is listed in the description box below. And please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment. It really helps me out a lot with YouTube's algorithm. Okay, are you ready? Let's go. Today we will be finishing our sewing machines by making the chair and a few things to go in the drawers. For this you will need your pattern. The first few pieces we're going to be working with are the top, base, and the three sides. And a side note, the pattern portion for the chair should be accurate. I was more worried about the sewing machine portion being wrong for the sizes. With that, the pattern should be pretty much cut and go. But we are going to want to basically make a three-sided box with a fixed top. Pretty simple so far. The next piece we're going to need is the one labeled side only one. First, cut this piece out of cardboard so you have a sturdy surface. I used bamboo for this portion, but you can use popsicle sticks. I just wanted to carry it over into the other piece. What we're going to do is lay out strips over top of our framework and then super glue it to it, set it aside to dry for a bit, and we're going to start working on the drawer itself. And we're going to need the back and base, and both pieces will be made out of cardboard or cereal box. Glue one of the long sides of the back to one of the straight sides of the base. The next piece you'll need is the front. This piece needs to be made out of wood. A few things to keep in mind while you're gluing this piece down is that you do not, repeat, do not want it to be centered. You want it to be further over towards the other flat side, not towards the rounded edge. Because if you had it centered, then you would have a very wide swing and it would push it out as you pull the drawer out. In order for that not to happen, make it flush with the straight side. Did that make sense? I hope so. The next piece you are going to make, but we will need the back piece of our paper pattern. We're going to want to cut out a strip about, we'll say, 2 inches long. That should give you plenty of room. But it needs to be the thickness of the back piece so your drawer is one height all the way around. To get this piece to curve, you can wrap it around something that is curved, like a colored pencil, or you can do like they do for ribbon and take your fingernail and first finger and pull it along the length until it starts to get a bend in it. Once you have the curve in it, go ahead and make sure it's the right size and glue it in place. I used super glue and baking soda for this because I needed that instant dry so I could keep the curve going without any bends in it. Once you have that, set it aside to dry, and we're going to turn our attention back to the chair. For this, we will need the chair back piece, which is the last piece on our pattern. Make sure this piece fits. I didn't end up using the piece from the pattern. I cut one on my own, but make sure that there is just a smidge of overhang on either side of the base of the chair. Then, using a pencil, give a curved shape to the back and front of your piece. For the chair back piece, this is a piece of the square dowel that we used for the actual sewing machine portion itself. I saved myself some hand pain and went ahead and chopped big chunks that I could off with my easy cutter. I could have done it with my Dremel, but I cannot record the footage when I do because I have to go outside. At least with the cutter, I can make nice cuts and it doesn't create as big as a mess as the Dremel would have. However, you have to move on to sanding eventually, so there's always a little bit of dust to be had. Please don't forget to wear protective gear while doing this. Now that you have the shape that you like, go ahead and trace this onto the base of your chair. This will help guide us while we make our holes for the post. Now you can decide on how many posts you want on the back of your chair. I believe I went with 4, and I would say they're probably about a quarter of an inch space apart, but I did not measure it. You'll want to take a paint marker and mark where you want your holes on one piece, and if you quickly touch the two pieces together, your points should transfer over, so you can have an exact lineup of where they need to be. Next, you would need a pointy tool. I prefer to go with a pair of scissors because of how they get wider. We need something that is very cone shaped, so that way we can sharpen our dowels and stick them in the holes. Or you could just opt for toothpicks and not have to worry about the pointing the sticks. I went with more bamboo from the placemat for mine. And I don't have toothpicks, so that would be why I didn't think about it until now. The length on these is up to you. You can make them as long or as short as you want. If you go with toothpicks, you can skip over the same. Now we can add our posts. This did get a little bit tricky, but I did figure it out in the end. The first thing you want to do is put your post in the base first and get them to where they're kind of stuck in there, so if you accidentally bump it, it'll stay where it is. You may even put a touch of super glue. You just have to work quick before it dried, but that could be an option too if you're having a really hard time getting the top piece on. Once you do, apply pressure slowly so they start to set into the top portion of the chair, and then you can glue from there. Let's put it together and see how it looks now. I don't know what that sound was just a second ago. My house is totally quiet. There was nothing. Strange. Anyhow, it is time for the legs. We are so close to being done. For this part, I used the pointy end of noodle sticks, or chopsticks if you prefer. And the length is completely up to you too, but things you do want to keep in mind is how high your chair seat is. The easiest way I found to measure was to lay them on my crafting mat and line them up where I wanted them to sit, pencil in my marks, then draw out some guidelines on the bottom of your chair so you can make sure that you have them all in the right place, and then glue them down. Give it some time to dry, and while we're waiting for that, we'll start working on the next piece, and that is going to be the cushions for the chair. We're going to need the top base pattern piece to use as a guide. I folded it in half, curved the two front corners, and then the whole back side where the bars are, I rounded completely. Then I cut 2 out of cardboard and 3 out of thin craft foam. Or you could use a thicker craft foam and save on layers. Completely up to you, either way works. We just need a smidge of cushion. Stack and glue 1 cardboard piece and all of the foam pieces together. Then wrap them in a layer of fabric of your choice. I went through quite a bit of my arsenal of glues to try to hold this fabric together. In the end, I resorted to super glue. However, I will warn you that some fabrics it does eat away at, so be mindful and possibly even test before gluing. Once you have your cushion wrapped, wrap the leftover piece of cardboard in the fabric too. Trim any loose ends if you have any, and glue the 2 halves together. For the single piece of cardboard, I put it to where the open side was facing down towards the bottom of the chair, and then I glued the cushion on top of that, so that way you can't see any of the edges. Then glue your seat to the chair. Now it's time to paint. To tie things in together, I suggest using the same colors that you used on the sewing machine. I am using the metallic black and a dark brown mix for a stain. Once your paint is dry, you can add your doorknob. I used a wood oval bead cut in half and glued it on with super glue. Now let's see how it looks. I think I made the base of the chair a little too big, but I still really like it. Now, remember in part 2 where I had you take a skewer and cut a bit of it off to make a spool of thread for the top of the sewing machine? We're going to take that idea and expand on it and put another piece of sequin on the bottom too and turn them into spools of thread. The only other thing you have to do is wrap your thread and hold it on with some glue. And this is a close-up of what mine look like. If you have the sequin with the hole in the middle, that is even better. I think 15 to 20 would be a good number of these to make. In the last drawer is actually ribbon that I made different colors. And then I made a self-repair kit that has the elastic and the buttons that my doll are held together with. For the cubby in the chair, I decided to go with a bunch of different laces. You can use fabric or lace, doesn't matter, or even something completely different in the drawer down below. But I took a popsicle stick and wrapped the lace around it, put a dab of glue on, and then pulled the popsicle stick out so I could use it for the next one. I also held these together with a binder clip until they were dry. I added a swatch of burlap just to break up the color scheme of all the white and black. Here's what mine looked like when I was finished gluing all my fabric in. If you wanted to leave yours loose, you could. I love how that turned out. The next thing we're going to make is a giant pair of scissors, and for this we're going to need a coated paper clip and baking pan aluminum along with one sequin and super glue and baking soda. Start out by opening your paper clip all the way. We're going to use both ends of it. Looking at your pliers before the little wire cutty part, you can see that they are in a half moon or half circle shape. We're going to use that piece to our advantage and put our wire right there in that spot and wrap this piece of wire halfway around to make the handle. Now that we're here, we need to straighten this end back out. So along the straight edge of your rounded piece, and that sounds funny, we need to twist it just a bit and straighten it back out. Repeat the process for the other handle, then cut in the middle. You should have two pieces that look like this. Now on to the scissoring part of the scissors. I am using my baking pan that I've been using for a while now and made a kind of knife shape with a little bit of a tag at the end of it, and this is so we can wrap it around our end of our handle. Once I had it the way I liked, I traced it and cut it out again. Now with all the pieces cut out, go ahead and wrap the tag around the end of the handle and secure it with super glue. This may take you a few times to get it wrapped around right. Then cinch it close at the handle. Here's what one of my sides looked like when I was finished with it. Repeat the process for the other side, and now it's time to glue them together. Close up, but it's a little too shiny, so I didn't really catch that good of a picture of it. Now we can glue on our sequin, and this is just to give the impression of the little screw that is on a pair of scissors right there in the center. I didn't show a close-up of them. I apologize. With that, it brings us to the end of our tutorial. Phew, this has been a long one. Thank you for sticking around if you're still here. And please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.